What you gonna do?
Stand up for your rights.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
Get up, stand up.
Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
Most people think the great God will come from the sky,
Sky, sky, sky, sky.
take away everything, make everybody feel
High,
high.
high, 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 high.
You know what life is worth. You would look for yours on earth. So now you see the light.
What you gonna do?
Stand up for your right.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. We're sick and tired of the ism, schism. Die and go to heaven in Jesus' name. We know and we understand Almighty God is an African man. You can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Now we see the light.
What you gonna do?
We're gonna stand up for our rights. Get up, stand up.
Get up and stand up.
Stand up for your rights.
Stand up for your rights.
Get up, stand up.
Get up and stand up.
Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights.
Stand up for your rights.
Get up, stand up.
Get up, Wose.
Don't give up the fight.
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 Never give up the fight.
Never give up the fight.
All right. We'll be back after the historical tribute. We'll be back after the historical tribute. After the historical tribute. Can I give you that tip?
Morning, Wose.
All right, Ustadi. You got your own fan, you got a traveling fan club, man. You know we miss you.
Anyway, good morning, Wose. This is this is the time in our service that we pay tribute to some person or event that made a major impact on African people. We try to keep at least 5 to 7 generations of our history alive. This historical tribute is simply a drop of water in a vast ocean of history. I'm gonna wait for my beautiful daughter to pass out these info. You finished, babe? Okay, thank you. Going back again. This historical tribute is simply a drop of water in a vast ocean of history that is an African people have. Malcolm X said that out of all of his studies and research, history is the most rewarding. So, if you have not did a historical tribute, you're missing out on your rewards. Today's historical tribute is dedicated to Mama Jasiri Naima Kadiri. Jasiri means daring or brave. Naima means grace in Swahili, which is the national language for Kenya and Tanzania. And it was adopted by the African people in the United States as our national language by Pan-Africans from coast to coast in the late 60s. Mama Jasiri would have been 64 on April 26th, which I think is Tuesday. 16th is Tuesday. Did you say something to me, ma'am? No, I thought, I said that? The 16th, I'm sorry. Thank you. It is so nice to have beautiful people listen to what you're saying. She's still beautiful people. Okay. And this is the 17th year since she's been gone. It's the 17th historical tribute that we have given. Either me, Khalil, or Jalil in future have given. Teach a man, you teach an individual. If you teach a woman, you teach a nation, because she is the nurturer. The legacy of Mama Jasiri Naima Kadiri was she was a founding member of Ileomade, African Children Advanced Learning Center, two independent African institutions to teach children from the preschool to high school, to 12th grade. Her legacy lives through the hundreds of children she has taught over 22 years of teaching. Her legacy as a singer will be cherished by the Wose membership and African community at large. She will always be remembered for songs, Teach the Children. And I'm so thankful to be an African, which she wrote. Being African is more than a hairstyle and hairdress. It's a form of symbolism. It's a way of thinking, and more important, it should show in your actions and deeds. There are the passages in Hosea, our ancient African text. The book of Ani stands in number 10 say, walk each day in the way of righteousness, and you will find the path that you're going. Do not, is that right? Do not, no, never speak evil words to any visitor. A word spoken carelessly someday, when you're gossiping, may overturn your house. If you're found generous in time of prosperity, when adversity comes, you will be able to bear it. If you're righteous, you will be recognized and respected by, and whether you're among many or few, you will find your family and friends, and all you wish will be granted. As I look out over the audience today, I see friends who call out her name when we pour libations. That's a form of recognizing and respect. Showing respect to Mama Jasiri for the contributions she has made to teaching the children and building an African nation. She loved being African. She loved her black skin. I remember when I was against her wearing lipstick, so she would wear black lipstick and ask me, don't you like black? The sister loved Africa so much, she would make pillows in the shape of Africa and sell them. So when it comes time to get a headstone, to identify her resting place for eternity. I knew that only one color I could get would be black. Well, it would be black in the shape of Africa. Khalil has a picture. I ain't got to describe it. And anything less than that, she would not rest in peace. So her headstone has a picture of her with the sun, Ra, shining on her face, showing the day of her birth, and with the day she entered into eternal life, near a pyramid as her tomb. This headstone identified who she was and what she believed in. Just like Marcus Messiah Garvey, she never returned to the motherland. But she never lost the vision of Africa as our motherland. There's an African proverb that says, when an elder dies, a library burns. Because Mama Jasiri was a practicing scholar, that means she learned her theory by doing, but she left behind her teachings, methods, and songs, and the children that are here today can carry out her teachings. Mama Jasiri was small in stature, but tall in vision. She believed in institution building, nation building, and spiritual growth. Let us not forget the life she lived was also beautiful, because she would always have something positive to say about people. So I respect her for that. She always had this big smile on her face when she greeted people. The Honorable Secretary said, you either serve the people or you use the people. There is no in between. I can truly say that Mama Jasiri was a person who served her community as a teacher and a mother to all. This historical tribute is dedicated to Mama Jasiri, Naima, Kadiri, and her grandson and her daughter will pour libation for their mother and grandmother. And from the book of Ani, stanza number 2, it says, pour libation for your mother and father who rest in the valley of the
rice water remedies, and golden seal salves. Or when I don't make breakfast and my baby is hungry, I smile and I think of Ileomode and the sweetness of syrup on Mama Rose's pancakes. I often dream of my mother smiling and holding my children, and the taste of bitter love lost lingers on my lips. But I know if I attempt to give as much as she did, love as hard as she did, educate with compassion as she did, greet every day with a smile as she did, I can hope for the sweetness she had. And as she said, the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Thank you. Asante. Asante.
You all look real good this morning.
Yeah.
The Stones of Fire are real glad to be here in front of you this morning, and we want to let you know that we feel good too, and that you Africans out there just looking so pretty in your colors. And Brother Tahimba always gets on me about I don't talk enough when it's time for me to do songs, so I'm supposed to stand up here and say, I'm just real glad to be able to do this song, and I want y'all to pray with me in case my voice gets a little crazy. Just say she's doing the best she can. That's right, that's right. All right. Well, I feel good. Well, I feel good, oh yes, my Lord, because there's something about the spirit of Amen Ra makes me feel good. Well, I can love. Well, I can love, oh yes, my Lord, because there's something about the spirit of Amen Ra makes me love good. Well, I've got joy. Well, I've got joy down in my soul, because there's something about the spirit of Amen Ra gives me such joy. Well, I can sing. Well, I can sing, oh yes, my Lord, because there's something about the spirit of Amen Ra makes me sing good. Well, do you feel good? Well, if you feel good, then clap your hands, because there's something about the spirit of Amen Ra makes me feel good. Well, I feel good. Well, I feel good. Oh yes, my Lord, because there's something about the spirit of Amen Ra makes me feel good. Because there's something about the spirit of Amen Ra makes me feel good. Because there's something about the spirit of Amen Ra that makes me feel good. Teach the children what they need to survive. Don't let them be misled by the same old lies. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. Only time will if the world you want to liberate, don't you know you have to educate the children. Teach the children that for truth they must take up stand to fight all oppression and help their fellow man. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. If we taught them well, like we should. teach the children. Don't you know you have to educate the children, the children. If the world you want to liberate, don't you know you have to educate the children, the children. Teach the children what it means to be free. Unchain your mind and take away the chain of slavery. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. If we've taught them well, like we should, know by now. Know by now. Some way, somehow, you have to teach the children. Don't you know you have to educate the children, children. If the world you want to liberate, don't you know you have to educate the children, the children. If the world you want to liberate the baby, the children, the children. If the world you want to liberate, don't you know you have to educate the children, the children. Teach the children.
Briefly, thank you, Brother Ustadi and Sister Kalia and family for bringing us another excellent tribute to Mama Jasiri. Excuse me. Those of us that knew Mama Jasiri knew that she loved African people. Those of us that knew Mama Jasiri know that she loved Wose. We know that she loved Ile-Omode, and we know that she loved to teach the children. She also loved the Stones of Fire. And she also loved singing, and especially loved singing Teach the Children, and the other song that she's identified with, her song, the song that she wrote, the song that we want to sing for her now. The first time I heard the song, Mama Jasiri sang it. The first time I played it on the piano, Mama Jasiri sang it. Every time I play it now, I feel the presence of Mama Jasiri. Mama Jasiri, this is for you.
ancestors and elders are smiling every day, 'cause they know we are Wose, the Church of the African Way. I am so thankful to be African. Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Oh, yes, I am. I love you. You love me. That's the way it's supposed to be. It's God's destiny. It was meant to be. We should live together as one. In God's creation, hatred should never be. Love is the way to eternity. It's God's destiny. It was meant to be. We should live together as one. I am so thankful. I am so thankful to be African. Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Oh, yes, I am. I am so thankful to be African. Oh, yes, I am. 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 Oh, yes, I am. And you should all be too. Yes. Okay, now we're on. All righty. Let's get to standing. Everybody has the placard. The children are helping pass envelopes around. We thank God for them, each and every one of them, our babies. We love our babies. Babies in the house. placard. This is our community litany of sacrifice in Nguzo Saba. Reading in unison. Save us, O Holy One, by your name. Vindicate us by your might. Hear my prayer, divine protector. Listen to the words of my mouth. How can we repay the Holy One for the gifts that have been given to us? We will lift up the cup of salvation and call upon God as our ancestors. We will fulfill our vows to our Creator in the presence of all our people. Gladly we bring our sacrifices to you. We will praise your name, O Amen Ra, for it is good. And then we'll proceed with the call and response. Umoja, unity. We shall strive to maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. Response is everyone, Kujichagulia, self-determination. We shall define, name, create, and speak for ourselves. Ujima, collective work and responsibility. We shall build and maintain our community get together. Our brothers and sisters' problems shall be ours to solve together. Ujama, cooperative economics. Together we shall build and maintain our own businesses and together profit from them. Nia, purpose. We shall make our collective vocation the building and development of our community and the restoration of our people to our traditional greatness. Kuumba, creativity. We shall do as much as we can in any way we can to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than when we inherited. All Imani, everyone, faith. We shall believe with all our hearts in our Creator, our people, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. Amen Ra. So those that want to come to the altar or to kneel down, please do so. And those that want to sit in their chairs and pray quietly, please do so. Forgive me for doing things a little out of order. I'm reading from the Hosea now. It's from the book of Fibor, and it's passage number 5. That's page 69. That's passage number 5, page 69. Those who give food generously when they have money are the ones to whom the fate gives fortune. For wealth goes to those who give food to others by means of it. The heart of God is satisfied when the poor stand provided for before him. Thus, if you acquire property, give a portion to God by giving a portion to the poor. If you acquire property, spend it on your town, so that there will be no turmoil in it. If it is in your power, invite those far away as well as those near you. For those who invite those from far away, their name will be great when they go afar. Thus, those who love their neighbors will find a family around them. God allows one to acquire wealth in return for doing good. And those who give food to the poor, God takes them to himself in mercy without measure. Creator, Mother, Father God, we thank you for the awesome task of keeping our community, our Wose community, alive and well, helping it prosper, helping our school where our kids go to school and learn about loving themselves and loving their people and loving their history, so we can make a difference in this world. Everybody knows there's a lot of work to be done. And here at Wose, we're about getting the work done. So we thank everyone who was able to give today and those that might not have been able to give but wanted to give. And we thank you for all of the energy, all of the passion, all of the spirit, all of the input that goes into making our community what it is today. And we pray for our future to be able to do more. With all of this, we say, thank you. Thank you for abundance. Amen Ra. Ashe.
We dedicate this song to Mama Jasiri in honor of her birthday, which will be on the 16th, 2 days from now. I did not have the honor of being acquainted with this Queen Mother, but I am the grateful recipient of her contributions to Wose. Through her contributions to this intellectual, spiritual, community institution, I am blessed, we are blessed, and her life goes on through her gifts. The way is hard for one who feels the price is twice as high for one who's real. Some get to choose, some have no choice. Some live their lives without a voice in anything. And life goes on. It goes on and on. It goes on. A child is born, he will be wise, and some will say he has his mother's eyes. He'll speak of love, joy, and pain. He'll be a poem to read when there is rain. And life goes on. It goes on and on and on and on and on. It goes on.
some of us. He's not really new to Wose. He first came to Wose about 11 or 12 years ago. Excuse me, I'm getting, like a lot of people, I'm getting over a little something here. For me, it seemed like he was here one Sunday. You know, one Sunday I looked up and he had walked in, and he's been here ever since. You know, he's been everywhere since then. You know, and it's good, and that's a good thing for us. And I've learned a little about him, so probably a little more than most of you. So I want to share some of the things that I have learned about him. One of the things that I know is that he is a quite accomplished guitar player. You know, and so like now, back then when he first brought his guitar, so his guitar is not new to Wose either. So he's a guitar player. He has joined the Stones. He's one of us now, the Stones of Fire. And he comes to rehearsal with us every Wednesday, and that's an invitation to any of you who want to come be a part of us. If you want to present like Sister Basola or Brother Hassaun or any of us, just come out on Wednesdays. But I also learned about the brother at our last Wose cleanup. I learned that he is an engineer, but I also learned that he's a hard worker and he doesn't mind washing walls or cleaning vents or working on locks. Okay, the brother he worked hard. You know, he didn't let the fact that he was an engineer, you know, limit the amount of work he was willing to do. Okay, and I asked the brother this morning, what do you want me to say about you? He said, well, let him know I'm a grandfather. So the brother is a husband, and he's a father of 7, and he's a grandfather of 10, you know. And that's what he wanted you to know most of all. And the brother values education. He told me that all 7 of his children have college degrees. Right? And he was their mentor. This brother has 2 bachelor's degrees, one in math and one in electrical engineering. And then he went out and got a master's. And then he went out and got another master's. So he has a master's in biomedical engineering and a master's in journalism. Right? And I wasn't going to say this, but this impressed me. He used to be a pilot for the U.S. Navy, okay? And he still values education. Right now, currently, he is in seminary school. And because of some of his other commitments, he can only be with us here at Wose every other Sunday. So he's only with us twice a month. And the other Sundays, he has a commitment. And I know you don't want to hear me talk about the brother. You want to hear the brother. So I'm bringing his name on his birth certificate is Hassaun Ali Jones-Bey. And I want to welcome him to Wose's pulpit for the first of what hopefully will be many times. Brother Hassaun.
Thank you very much for that very, very gracious introduction. And I'd like to give thanks and recognize all of the ancestors who made it possible for me to be standing here, for us to be here, and listening to the tribute for Mama Jasiri. I had more of an introduction to what I'm going to do, but I'm going to jump right in because it turns out that's the introduction. There's a certain amount of synchronicity or whatever. So I'm going to jump past the introduction. This is actually the first in a series of 7 sermons that I'm doing for my degree program, and the focus is on something that I call Emancipating God. And we'll kind of get to that as we go. But we start with, there's a quote from Carter G. Woodson, a bit of a lengthy quote, but it's about education. And from what we said so far, it seems very appropriate to start here. The author, and this is from his book, Miseducation of the Negro. The author considers the educational system as it has developed, both in Europe and America, as an antiquated process, which does not hit the mark even in the case of the needs of the white man himself. If the white man wants to hold on to it, let him do so. But the Negro, as far as he is able, should develop and carry out a program of his own. The so-called modern education, with all its defects, however, does others so much more good than it does the Negro because it has been worked out in conformity to the needs of those who have enslaved and oppressed weaker peoples. For example, the philosophy and ethics resulting from our educational system have justified slavery, peonage, segregation, and lynching. The oppressor has the right to exploit, to handicap, and to kill the oppressed. Negroes daily educated in the tenets of such a religion of the strong have accepted the status of the weak as divinely ordained, and during the last 3 generations of their nominal freedom, they have done practically nothing to change it. No systematic effort toward change has been possible before taught the same economics, history, philosophy, literature, and religion which have established the present code of morals. The Negro's mind has been brought under the control of his oppressor. The problem of holding the Negro down, therefore, is easily solved. When you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him to stand here or go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary. So, have you ever wondered why the black president of the United States has not exploded in a rage at the institutional genocide against black people in the United States of America, known as mass incarceration? Have you ever wondered why he has not made this issue the #1 issue of his administration? Or more importantly, have you ever wondered why most people in the United States, black, white, and otherwise, don't find this seeming anomaly of concern either? If the president did display such a natural and normal human reaction, many of us would really find it disturbing. Many of us would say, this is not the type of person who could win enough votes to become the leader of the world. Many American voters were reassured when during the first election campaign, President Obama denounced his own pastor and mentor because that mentor's views had come under fire by the opposition. My thoughts at the time and now were, how can you expect someone to stand up, how can anyone expect someone to stand up for them who will not stand up for himself? Allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you spoke and twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and loss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Now, that's by Rudyard Kipling. I mean, if you're probably familiar with it's called If. And some may argue that President Obama doesn't always seem to tell the truth, but I'm also willing to argue that even if every single untruth attributed to President Obama ultimately proves to be an intentional lie, that he will still in no way come close to exceeding the historically proven mendaciousness of every single president of the United States before him. So what can be wrong with such sterling advice as Mr. Kipling provides in the famous If, you ask? If glorifies the ultimate political ego trip. It's an excellent recipe for superficiality, for covering up your true feelings along with any other truths or even obvious facts that need to be concealed in order to give the impression that everything is okay, even when everything might be dreadfully wrong. There's not a word in that poem about community, about family, about culture, about tradition, about ancestors, or even about kindness. Rather than harmony with the life-giving earth and all that's in it, the bottom line for manhood in this poem is possession of the earth and all that's in it. It should not be surprising that If was written as a tribute to the life of an adventurer in pursuit of British Empire in South Africa. It was also written, of course, by the author whose famous White Man's Burden celebrated the brutal American Holocaust inflicted on Philippine people and culture a little over a century ago. When young black men are educated from the cradle upwards in such morals, as President Obama assures us in speech after speech that he was, because he knows and we know, that is why America elected and re-elected him, how can you expect his behavior to be any different than it is? I'm not making excuses for him either. What I am doing is redistributing the responsibility so that all of us get our fair share, the parts that the rest of us need to do something about if we are truly serious about social change. I'm not talking about black change or white change. I'm talking about human change. The first sentence of the Woodson quote that I opened with stated that the religion of the strong that all of us are educated in does not serve the white very well either. As is quite evident to most thinking people today, the religion of the strong is actually suicidal to all of humanity. Endless competition for power over the possession of the earth and all that's in it continues to destroy communities, cultures, and even the biosphere. Yet even political progressives don't seem to get it. I cannot count the number of times in the last few years that I've heard glowing stories about post-apartheid reconciliation in South Africa and how it presents a wonderful blueprint for going forward. Without taking anything away from the courageous efforts of all involved, I literally can't understand why anyone who feels good about that process can have any complaints about President Obama. In many ways, apartheid was actually brought down in large part by a whole generation of young black South Africans, and by young, I mean to include children and teenagers who sacrificed their lives, educations, futures, dreams, community, ill-gotten gains, and the only way that the victims of the crime stood any chance of even sharing in their former possessions would be to apply for minimum wage employment with the bandits, whereby the victims might earn some of their former property back if the bandits found their performance suitable. Perhaps I am mistaken, but I see no difference between this and American banks getting away with just a slap on the wrist for bankrupting the middle-class America, except for two things. One is that middle-class Americans were not brutalized or tortured. The other is that the victims of apartheid were not white. So in spite of my respect for the sincerely good intentions of the liberals and progressives who speak highly of South African reconciliation, the message that I get from them is that the religion of the strong is still their religion, regardless of what particular religious denomination or philosophy they might espouse. As a person of African heritage, it hurts to hear this because I realize that these people still have not yet learned to consider people who look like me as fully human. I say nothing about my pain because I have been indoctrinated in the religion of the strong as well. So I simply note that I am hearing and feeling the reason, the combination of fear, pain, anger, and arrogance that is currently tearing apart modern civilization. In the words of African-American religious historian Charles H. Long, modern Western cultures, in the midst of their tremendous creativity and noisiness, find themselves confronting an awesome silence. A silence that cannot be banished by the clamor of activity. It is the wonder and monstrosity of our deeds which has evoked this mood of silence. The great language of creativity which we use to subdue and exploit the world has been placed in jeopardy. Its mighty words are overwhelmed by the silence of the pauses between the words. The language has been prostituted by the very technique that brought it into being. After having been used and misused for so long by so many, this language has come to be distrusted by the cultures of the West. This silence, which has come about in the modern period, may well be the sign of a cultural catastrophe when a culture is unable to trust its own language and the names that it has assigned to things, it is indeed in trouble. As in the midst of the creation of the high God and a period of catastrophe, the human community is unable to gain help from the lesser gods of cultural creativity and must turn again to the creator of the beginning. This is a characteristic religious orientation. It is the be still and know that I am God. It is the Hindu Muni, whose silence is a testimony to God's holiness. It is the silence of Meister Eckhart, who after ascending to the Godhead found an unspeakable void, and again in the Delphic oracle of Socrates, which does not speak but signifies. All of that said, it's interesting in this context to note that physical scientists, modern Western science, I was going to say have recently discovered that about 95% of the universe is composed of dark matter or dark energy that humans are not able to perceive. And for the sake of this discussion, I'm going to ask you to imagine the possibility that that 95% of the universe that we cannot perceive is the source of Long's awesome silence. And then I also asked you to imagine the possibility that the 95% that we cannot perceive is not just outside of us. We're part of the universe. So, in other words, imagine the possibility that we only actually, our physical senses only perceive 95%, or only perceive 5% of who we are. Okay? I ask you to imagine such possibilities because in doing so, we begin to appreciate the wisdom found in the mythology of people that the modern religion of the strong has deemed less than human. And I'm going to read you another quote from Dr. Long. He says, because of the widespread popularity of evolutionistic and rationalistic thinking in our culture, the term myth usually refers to the fanciful imagination of the human mind. As such, it is the opposite of the world of reality. Actually, I'm going to shorten this because I know that, see, I'm going to go over my time. But basically, what he says is that even theologians and scientists, they look in the West, they look at people like from the African continent, like Native Americans, people from India, who live in what you call an explicit myth. Their mythology, you know, they'll tell you the myth. The people from Australia, there's a dream time, and they say a lot in their myths. Kind of look at them and say, oh, that's not, you know, they're like children. And we have treated them as this Western culture has treated them as if they're not human, okay? But what Long says is that any person who has studied the cultures of a people who live in terms of an explicit myth, an opposite judgment must be made. The myth is a true story. The myth is about reality. It is impossible to understand the reality and being of these people unless one understands their reality relationship to the myth. So when we speak of understanding their reality, I mean, you can think of them in terms of their biological characteristics, but we don't understand their humanity, their humanness. And I take this a step further than Long, actually in another portion, I think he does take it this far, and argue that until we as a modern Western culture begin to respect the mythology and therefore the humanity of others, we will continue to be ignorant, not only of others, but of our own humanity as well. And because I said that 95, what the portion of ourself that we can't perceive is actually in this mythological space. That's why we make myths, because there are these great truths that we can't speak. We can't, and I can't help in coming across these numbers, I couldn't help thinking about the Occupy movement, whereas, say, okay, the 99%, we're going to get back at the 1%, we need to straighten them out. But I had to wonder, might the triumph of the 99% actually occur when each of us begins to find our own humanity? For instance, imagine that mild-mannered Hassaun Ali Jones-Bey gets so fed up with all this oppression that I run into the nearest phone booth. Everybody remembers what phone booths look like, right? Rip open my shirt to reveal a big green S on my chest that stands for Super African, okay? Super African then flies around, apprehending all of the banksters. I put them all behind bars, cancel all debts, open the vaults, and use the wealth to end poverty throughout the world. I flex my massive biceps and triceps and my handy-dandy forceps, and I rip up pavement, destroy all the evil machinery of the GMOs, and restore organic agriculture everywhere. Then, just before dashing off into the setting sun and the potluck fellowship hour here at Wose, I tell everyone that I have discovered the secret of the super rich. There are several spots on the earth that convey unlimited power and riches to whoever touches them, but unfortunately, touching them also conveys untold misery on the rest of the world. So before leaving, I post unarmed, sign-carrying volunteers from the Occupy movement in front of each one of these magic spots to warn people not to touch them. Now, how long do you think that's going to last? Okay. No point in complaining about the Rockefellers. Everybody want to be a Rockefeller, okay? So in summary, I'm going to suggest that the only way for any of us, including President Obama, to initiate real, substantive, and sustained social change is to begin with a thorough deconstruction of the religion of the strong. Perhaps because of our excessively rational and individualistic understanding of it, modern religion seems to pose what Long describes as a theological problem concerning the freedom of the deity. I understand this in terms of arguments that people with way too much time on their hands get into as to whether their behavior is determined by human free will or divine predestination. It's as if the people engaged in such arguments are trying to decide whether they are free or God is free, because their understanding of God, their religion of the strong, does not allow for both God and all of God's creation to be free at the same time. For instance, if I believe that God is the muscular white guy with the curly hair and the beard that Michelangelo painted on the ceiling in the Sistine Chapel, then the only way I get to enjoy God's freedom is by claiming that the 5% of me that is superficially visible was created in the physical image of the God that my friend painted on the wall, on the ceiling. Another way of understanding that is I gain my freedom in the religion of the strong by constraining or enslaving the image of God to look like me, essentially to serve my purposes. And that's where we run into the specific miseducation problem that Dr. Woodson wrote about in a way that shows us why it is ultimately suicidal for humanity as a whole. Just about everyone realizes that things are pretty messed up right now and that revolutionary change is needed. But the modern world has been miseducated to believe that revolutions come about through violent regime changes, rather than through the cyclical and naturally periodic returns to the beginning upon which traditional civilization have been based throughout human history. Now that I think about it, knowing that much alone might not help us here in the U.S., because we have been miseducated to believe that we began in a violent regime change. We stand up and sing about it at the beginning of baseball games. Woodson's point was that violent regime change is the beginning of the religious of the strong, as I understand it. And that's when someone paints his friend's picture on the ceiling and makes everyone bow down to it. Modern culture is essentially caught up in a miseducation loop that prevents us from getting back to the natural beginnings that heal us. Modern culture traces its beginnings to the Greeks and the Hebrews, but it denies the African roots of Greek and Hebrew traditions. As I understand it, this is largely the work of empire builders who felt that it would be in their interest to establish and propagate various versions of the religion of the strong. The problem, however, as the biblical psalmist points out, is that the builders rejected the block that needs to be the cornerstone in order for the ensuing structures that we now know as modern culture to be sound. The builders of empire chose superficial imagery, the 5% of themselves that they could see to represent God, when in actuality all of humanity and all of existence is based on the Spirit of God. The 95% that we can't see, but that we experience every day as the essence of life itself. Okay. I'm almost done. Wade W. Nobles, one of the founders of the Association of Black Psychologists, describes this cornerstone of human civilization as the Bantu Congo concept of spiritness that is understood throughout traditional African thought as the essence of being human. In modern Western culture, one of the most difficult and enduring intellectual struggles has been to try and reconcile the science that came out of Greek culture with the religion that came out of Hebrew culture, even though both came out of Egypt, ancient Egypt, out of Kemet, where there was nothing to reconcile because no such division existed. The cornerstone, the spiritness, the essence of being human that held the intellectual and the physical, that held the abstract and the concrete together, not just in Africa, but in indigenous traditions, here in the Americas, in Australia, even among ancient indigenous people in Europe, has been rejected by the builders of modern civilization, has been rejected by the architects of the religion of the strong. But that understanding, that education is the beginning we need to return to. That is the change we're looking for. It is a revolution that heals instead of kills, okay? And that's, I said, well, I'm preaching to the choir. Listening to the talk, Mama Jasiri. In the book, Where Do We Go From Here? And this is, at the end, after a successful civil rights movement, Martin Luther King quotes Thomas Paine, one of the people we're educated to call a founding father, who said, "We have the power to begin the world over again." Yet in the next paragraph, King writes that the founding fathers did not begin again. They chose enslavement and genocide against Africans and Native Americans, a religion of the strong. But as Dr. Woodson points out in the opening quote, even if others choose not to reject the religion of the strong, we need to. Native Americans and many other people around the world today are rejecting religions of the strong and returning to their spiritual beginnings, not to glorify or live in the past, but to continually refresh and renew the spiritness, the essence of humanity that is the true cornerstone of all human civilization. So we, as people of African heritage in particular, need the spirit of our ancestors, the revolution that heals, the revolution of spirit in harmony with everything from the blossoming of wildflowers in spring to the expansion and contraction of the universe, which of course is why we gather together regularly in this ritual space. So as we close, I'd ask each of you to imagine yourself as one of the Rocky Mountains. The uppermost 5% of you is a costume party mask draped loosely over your peak. The other 95% connects deep throughout the entire mountain range and is our shared human and divine spirit. Bring that imagination into reality for a moment, if you will, by holding hands with your neighbors. Look through each other's masks. Experience the one divine spirit that we all share, and don't forget to smile. And as you do this, I'd like to share a song with you, a song that was inspired by Sunday morning meditation on a mountain, sacred mountain right here in
Create and serve me within yourself, for I'm simply love. Create and serve me within yourself, for I'm simply love. As I listened to these words, more questions came to me. God's in me, who's in the sky? And where will I go when I die? Then I looked up and all around, even down until I found God was smiling back at me. Sky, earth, sea, and every tree. So I sat still in my quiet place and listened carefully. Voiceless words in a wordless voice somehow said this to me. Create and serve me within yourself, for I'm simply love. Free to sing on. Create and serve me within yourself, for I'm simply love. So I got up from my quiet place and started to return. I wanted to share with my friends the wonders I had learned. But no matter how far I walked, the quiet was still there. And then I knew that when I die, I will be everywhere. So I walk on in my quiet way and listen carefully. Words in a wordless voice somehow said this to me. Create and serve me within yourself, for I am simply love. Create and serve me within yourself, for I am simply love. Everybody. Create and serve me within yourself, for I'm simply love. One more time. Create and serve me within yourself, for I'm simply love.
Thank you, Wose. Many blessings.
Thank you very much, Brother Hassaun. Thank you for your message and your song and for all that you offered to us today.
Well, thank you, Mama Jasiri.
So at this time, we are bringing our service to a close, and we would like to open up our community to anyone who doesn't have a community in which to pray and work and serve, etc. Wose is a community of people. It's not just a conceptual place. It's a place full of people who are working towards the betterment of our community. So if you would like, we open the doors and extend a hearty welcome to you as a member. Additionally, I guess we ask for announcements now. Are there any announcements that need to be made? Any announcements? Lovely. All right. Oh, sorry.
I just want to make an announcement. I am blessed to have had a
Emancipating Day in prayer and the staff who are leaving for Washington. Thank you. It's about 15 kids. About 15 children. Wonderful. Just the college. Yes. Brother Davis?
Yes, to continue with Ileomode's needs and for blessings and money, who's collecting for Casino now?
Mama Fania. And she, yes, on behalf of Julia, Mama. So if you need tickets or anything for casino night, please see Mama Fania. She's collecting on behalf of Julia.
If you can have an opportunity, as such as I enjoyed very recently, we have a resident poet, and he's quite eloquent, and I had opportunity to see him again. I'm talking about Karabazi. And so he's definitely the poet of poets. And if you really want to hear a treat, hear the brother. Next comment. Please see the movie 42. Very inspirational. See that movie 42 about Jackie Robinson. That's it.
Thank you, Bubba. Any other announcements before we close? All right, well, I'd like to invite everyone forward for our closing.
No question.
I saw it yesterday. Thank you. I did too.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Come together, join hands, right over left. Right over left. And as part of our traditional closing, we sing Lift Every Voice and Sing, and we are accompanied by the lovely Sister Connie on the piano.
Yes.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught.